Hello, Pro Stitcher friends. It is the final week of my series on basic Pro Stitcher instruction. So I would love for you in Facebook and in YouTube to leave me a comment to let me know that the comments are working. The top comment that I've put in is where you can find your handout for today, which is what's on the screen. The best way I've found the most reliable way is that I put it on my website and then you go buy the handout, but you buy it for free. So it's just a download. I'll never know that you were there. You can just go get the handout and download it. So I would love to hear from you because the comments are doing weird things for me. So I would love to know that they're working. The first week in our lessons, we talked about the 5 basic things you need to know to get started with Pro Stitcher, which is making an area, making a design, making it fit, baselining, and stitching. After that, we repeated for edge-to-edge quilting, different ways to repeat. Last week, we went through align versus reposition, and today we're going to talk about the stitch settings. Let's see. Nope, still not getting any comments because they're looking weird on my end, but I'll keep going even if I don't hear from you. I would like to be able to answer your questions. So let's see. It's a beautiful fall day here in New York. Oh, hooray. Okay. YouTube is working. That's good news. It's Facebook I'm concerned about. So Facebookers, leave a comment. Oh, hooray. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad. You know, technology, sometimes it does things to us. So hello in Michigan. Hello in Pensacola, Florida. I am in upstate New York, kind of upstate or suburban New York City, depends on your point of view. And it is a beautiful fall day. We've got all the beautiful colors and the crisp sky, and it's 77 degrees outside. So it's my kind of fall. Let's see. You can hear and see me. You're in sunny California. And hello in Minnesota. Thank you for letting me know it works. The times that I've done Facebook Lives, and I do them on my own weekly as well as the ones I do here for Pro Stitcher, when the comments don't work, it's like I'm kind of like talking to myself in my kitchen, which is really what I'm doing. But it's nice to know that you're there. So thank you very much. Let's see. Your first opportunity to catch me live. You watched the other 3 on YouTube. I'm glad you were able to find them on YouTube, and I hope you found them to be helpful. Let's see. Good morning from Las Vegas. I'm glad to see you. So let me put that down. So what we're going to talk about today is how you're going to stitch out your quilt and how you're going to change the things you stitch out. Because in our other weeks, we've talked about how to get the design up, but now we're going to talk about when you put thread on fabric, how we're going to stitch it out, how we choose our settings, how we change our settings, and how to make them work for us. Hello in Alberta, my neighbor to the north. It's good to see you. So what I've done on this handout here, the top column, the top in the color is the tab, is the navigation of how to get to different stitch settings. So we're just going to go in the order of the handout, going from the top of the Pro Stitcher tab. The Pro Stitcher tab, hit the quilt button. We're going to hit the settings tab, the settings button, and the defaults. We're going to hit the settings and auto jump, settings and stitches per inch, settings and tie off, settings and pull up, settings and pause delay, and settings and cut thread, settings and advanced in general. So that's how we're going to find all the different ways to set how we're stitching, to change how we're stitching, and to make it permanent or temporary. So these are just different ways to find how to change your stitch settings. Now, this series of classes I'm doing is on Pro Stitcher Premium. If you have Pro Stitcher Lite, I have special notes for me to point out in this video of what is and is not available and what is different in Pro Stitcher Lite. So you're welcome. Please stay. I'm here for you. I will make it clear. If I don't say anything, it's available for Pro Stitcher and Pro Stitcher Lite, but I will point out what may be different in Pro Stitcher Lite. And I went through and made some notes on that. So let's move over to my, let's see, share screen over to Pro Stitcher. So I am in Pro Stitcher. There's my screen. And this is what it looks like when I turn it on. I'm going to load a design because it works better that way. So I just loaded an old design. It said feather block. That was it from my history. I'm sharing this screen with you. So if I pull up a second screen on Pro Stitcher, it doesn't share. So some things might be off the screen. And heaven forbid, when I forget to share screen, yell at me in the comments. I'll go back and do it again. Let's see. Good morning. I need all the help I can. I had a bad day yesterday with the thread looping on the back. Oh no. Those are days that you just, for me, that's when I have my treat, which is a nice crisp Diet Coke, nice crisp Diet Dr. Pepper, and sit and do something silly for a couple of minutes, watch some silly animal videos, take a breather, and then go back and fix the problem. But I'm so sorry that happened to you. Those are less than fun days. So here I am in the Pro Stitcher, and the tabs I'm talking about for the navigation are across the top. So you can follow my cursor, File, Edit, Area, Modify, Repeat, Pro Stitcher. I'm going to go to the Pro Stitcher tab, and the very first things that I see that have to do with stitching are right here on this ribbon. It says half stitch. Now, if I press that button, the needle will move to the opposite position. So if it's up, it'll move down. If it's down, it'll move up. For most of us, as in nearly all of us, as in probably no one here will need to use this button. But the reason they're there is in an older model, like back from 20 years ago, the Pro Stitcher didn't let you use the handlebars. So you couldn't move your needle. If the Pro Stitcher was on, your buttons on your handlebars were disabled. So if we needed to move the needle to make sure the needle was up, or to make a knot or do something, there had to be a way to move the needle without using your handlebars. All of us are just going to use our handlebars, but that's what the stitch settings are here. You can ignore those, use your handlebars. I mean, use these if you want, they work, but it just takes a half stitch or a full stitch. And you would do that on your handlebars. And then that should be on Pro Stitcher and Pro Stitcher Lite. Moving over, we're going to go over to Baste here. And in Baste, let me turn Quilt off. So in Baste, I can turn my Baste on and my Baste off. That is not available in Pro Stitcher Lite. So if you want to baste in Pro Stitcher Lite, you are going to set your stitches to 4 stitches to the inch. And that's going to be your basting. So I can simply turn the basting on here as I'm ready to run, or turn it off. And so that's the first column, the first box in our handout. It's pretty simple. It's just a couple stitch settings. When I go over to the Pro Stitcher tab, they show up right in the ribbon. Exactly what you did, walk away. Good job. You're strong. You can do this. You can go back and fix it, but walking away is always a great choice. Sushma, I have been watching. Your videos are very informative. You could not download the link for the handout. Yes, I'm going to put it in the chat right now. Hold on just a second. The shortcut is to go to my website, type Pro Stitcher in the search bar, and you'll find all the handouts because they're just hiding in there. So let me pull up my website. I'll get the direct link. And here it is. Back to you. That is the link to all of the downloads. Now I'm going to stop sharing this. I am going to go over here, share screen. share screen to a window. No. Chrome tab. I'll do this one. Okay, so we're over at my website here. It's just debbybrownquilts.com. You got to put the Y in Debbie because my mom spelled my name wrong. So debbybrownquilts.com. Up at the search bar here, just type in pro-stitcher. Hit enter, and you will find all of the handouts right there. They're $0. Just go download them. The first week I tried doing a direct download and that didn't work. So I know that it works going through my website, and that's what I've done here. So let me come back to you. Stop sharing. Hopefully I am sharing. Where are we? Did I share? There we go. So yes, I am sharing. If I didn't share before, because I tend to forget to do that, I'm over at Debbie Brown Quilts, spell it with a Y, debbybrownquilts.com. Go up in the search bar, type in Pro Stitcher with a dash, PRO-Stitcher, and underneath it, you'll find all of the handouts for the 4 lessons. So you can stop sharing. Whenever you go into the previous video, it's in the top chat. It's the top comment in the chat of all the previous videos. Let's see, Christy, you weren't putting in the dash. Yep, that's the way it's spelled. It's spelled pro-stitcher. And I've been with Handy Quilter since 2006. Trust me, I have learned over time to spell everything properly with Pro Stitcher and capitalize what needs to be capitalized and put the dashes where they need to be dashed. So that's how it goes. So thank you for your patience with me. Okay, so that was, go back to the handout here. So we talked about the very simple stitch settings in the Pro Stitcher tab: half stitch, full stitch, and based. Sushma, you appreciate your help. I'm happy to be here. That's what I'm here for. Now, when I started with Handy Quilter, I'm not a technology person. I can use technology, but it doesn't come naturally to me. So I've learned over 20 years how to use the software, but I've struggled with it. So I've taken my struggles, figured out how to make it really clear to myself, and then I'm sharing that with you. So I don't want anyone to think I'm talking down to you. This is as high up as I can talk when it comes to computers. So I will ask you to follow over. I will repeat things, and I will give you handouts and instructions to make things clear. So that was the Pro Stitcher tab. The next thing in Pro Stitcher, the next box, the second box, is Pro Stitcher and Quilt. So I'm going to share my screen again. I am going to go over to my Pro Stitcher tab. There we go. So I'm in Pro Stitcher. Now, right now, I went up to File, Pro Stitcher, and when I say Pro Stitcher Quilt, I want to hit the quilt button. And that's going to bring up new buttons over here on the sidebar. So again, that is go to the top and go into your tabs, hit Pro Stitcher, hit Quilt, and then we're going to take these buttons over here. Now, as a reminder, I apologize, my voice is still weak. I'm recovering from the virus that shall not be named, and I'm going to sound like this for weeks. I feel fine. Everything's fine. My voice is just horrible. So over here, whenever something is highlighted, whenever it's dark, whenever it's colored, that means it's working. So right now, I will stitch. So if I hit run here, it's going to stitch. If I turn stitch off and hit run, my machine is going to move into place and it is going to follow through. It is going to start here and the needle is going to move through all of the paces, except the needle is never going to go up and down. It's not going to stitch because I have stitch turned off. Have I done that on purpose ever for a reason? No. Have I done that accidentally and been very confused? Yes. So if your machine isn't stitching, like if the needle's going through, the machine is moving through places, but the needle is not going up and down. There's two places to look. One is, do you have your stitch button turned on? And the other is, actually there's three. The other is, did you baseline? Because sometimes when you don't baseline, things get a little squirrely. And the third place is, when you turned your machine off previously, did you turn it off in the right order? Which means to shut down the program and then turn the machine off. And then when you went to turn it on, did you turn the machine on and then turn on the screen? Turn on your Pro Stitcher, because it has to be turned off and on in the right order. But if you accidentally hit this button and turn it off, it'll be very confusing. Let's go back to some comments. Experience is the best teacher. Yes. If I can't be a good example, I will be a cautionary tale. So I'll show you how to do it wrong, because that's how I did it. Good morning. Just discovered me. Hello, I've been discovered. Thank you for the information. I'm happy to help. And good evening from France. Brand new to Pro Stitcher. You can do this. So good evening in France. And I don't know how to say good evening. I only know how to say bon. I only know how to say good day. I'm sorry, my French is abysmal, but I can work with you in Spanish. But I'm very glad you're here. You can refer back to the video anywhere in the world that you can get YouTube, because the videos will be saved on YouTube. So if there's something you wanted to catch, go back and look at it. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. Let me go back to my Pro Stitcher. We're back in these buttons. So stitch is turned on. The button next to it is cut thread. Now, that only works if you own an Infinity. I don't own an Infinity. So that's not a Pro Stitcher Lite thing. That only works on one machine of ours, which is the Infinity. So the cut thread doesn't work for most of us. Going down, the next button is make a knot. You can see it's a nice little bow tie. It has a green circle in it, because that's our start. Our start point on our designs is a green circle. So is it going to make a knot when I start stitching? Or is it not going to make a knot when I start stitching? Is it going to make a knot when I stop stitching? Or is it not? Is it going to skip making a knot? I am knot averse. I choose to not make very many knots in my quilts. So on this design here, my start point and end point are over on top of each other. So I'm not going to make a knot at the start point. I'm going to make it at the end point, because I'm going to stitch over that start point a couple times and it'll lock it in. So I don't need the extra knot. Let me go here, close my design, open up a new design. Let's see. Okay, so I have a new design here. I'm going to go back into Pro Stitcher. Now on this design here, my start point is over on the left, my end point is over on the right. And if I'm doing this edge to edge on my quilt, I have my start point in the batting and I have my ending point in the batting, in which case I do not turn the knots on. I don't need knots in my batting when I quilt, because I'm just going to trim that up and sew on a binding. So you can choose whether you're turning the knots on or turning them off, or turning it only on at the end, or turning it only on at the beginning. So if it's highlighted, if it's green, blue, whatever color you think that is, then it is working. And if it's not, if it's deselected, then you won't have knots. Let's see. Hello from Washington State. Hello. Glad to see you there. So hopefully that made sense with turning the knots on and off. Going down, the next is putting on a pull up. So what pull up does is it, whenever the machine goes to stitch, it's going to move into position. I'm going to be holding the tail. The needle is going to go down. Let's see, I'm going to turn this off so you can see my face. I'm going to hold the tail, the needle will move into place. and it'll go down and up and just pause. What it's waiting for me to do is to use the top thread to pull up the bobbin thread. I don't want the bobbin thread hanging out under my quilt because it's going to get stitched over and stitched over and stitched over, and it's going to make a nice bird's nest on the back of the quilt. So I like to have both threads to the top of my machine, the top of my quilt, so I can control them. Good point about knots in the batting. It's practical, but for me, I'm very impatient. I'm East Coast personality, and I'm typically caffeinated. This is me without caffeine. I try to not talk too fast whenever I'm on a video. So I've made it to noon my time and no caffeine. But if I'm watching the Pro Stitcher stitch, it moves over into place. And then it's going to take a knot, which isn't immediate. I'm like, I'm wasting time here because that's just my personality. I turn them off for that, but I'm also just going to trim them off. So pull up. It's going to move over into position, needle down, needle up, pause, and it's going to let me pull up my bobbin thread. And then I'm going to hold my top thread and my bobbin thread together when I hit resume or restart quilting, whatever the button says, and then it'll continue to make its knot. But that lets me bring that up. That's what pull up does. The next button, let's go share that. The next button says pull up auto. And that's just an automatic pull up. So it's just a little bit different. I'm going to turn my screen back off so I can see you. So what pull up auto does, moves into place, goes needle up, needle down, and then the machine moves over a little bit. And that lets me reach the pull up because it'll actually typically pull up just a little bubble that you can grab. So you get to choose which way you like, try them both and see what you like. So pull up and pull up auto, those are available for you. Turn the Pro Stitcher back on. Then, I think I skipped something here. Let me clear my screen. And let me go look. I have a cheat sheet, but I think I forgot to highlight this one for myself. Hold on just a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Let's see, documents. I'm looking up what is in the Pro Stitcher versus the Pro Stitcher Lite. So I want to make sure I tell you the correct information. So I think one of those buttons isn't going to work, but I didn't have it highlighted on my sheet. Let's see. Pro Stitcher. Okay, in quilt, I was correct. I missed one. So thank you for your patience with me. I missed one highlight on my handout. Let me go back to my Pro Stitcher tab. I'm going to close this design, close selected. I'm going to open up that feather block again, and I am going to, I'm going to go to modify. I'm going to go to rotate and change the design. Okay. So I want to explain what the buttons mean. When I am under Pro Stitcher Quilt, one button down here says trace bounds. That is not in Pro Stitcher Lite. Now what bounds are is it makes a box based on the top point, the bottom point, the left point, and the right point of your design. Now you can't see it on my screen now because I have it turned off. So what I'm doing, you can follow my cursor. I'm going to go up to view and I can hit bounds. So that I now have a blue box. So I have this blue box that touches the top point, the bottom point, the left point, and the right point. That's the bounds. Have I ever used the bounds? No, that's why I turn them off. I certainly don't trace the bounds, which is either to have the machine move into place without stitching and just trace the edges to make sure that it fits in your area, or you can actually go and stitch that if you like, which I never have done. I don't ever do that, but that's what bounds are. If you have Pro Stitcher Lite, you won't see that. And I've never done that on purpose. Others might. I'm a very simple user of the Pro Stitcher. As you've seen in the 4 weeks that I've been teaching, I do the basics. I do edge to edge. I do block. I know how it all works, but I'm not doing crazy things with the Pro Stitcher. I just like to get my quilts done. Let me go back to modify. Let me rotate that back. I'm going to make an area. Oops. Okay. I'm going to make an area here. And then my favorite button, one of my top 5 buttons is in modify. I'm going to hit skew and I'm going to just make that feather go in the box. So that is my area. If I go back over to Pro Stitcher Quilt, I have a chance to trace area. And if I have the stitching turned off and I hit trace area and run, the machine will just outline that area. If I have the stitching on, it will stitch that area. If I have the knots on, it'll stitch that area using the knots. It's kind of interesting that way. But let's go back to that bounds concept again for those of you with Pro Stitcher Premium. I'm going to go back up to the top, go over to the View tab, and turn my bounds back on. You didn't see any difference because the bound box and the area are the same place. If I turn my area off, there's my bounds. If I turn my area back on, you can't see the bounds. So bounds and area are often the same place. Again, I never use this, but that's the explanation for what it is. So in Pro Stitcher Quilt, over to the right side, you can stitch or not, cut thread, which is only for the infinity, which is Pro Stitcher Premium, but only for the infinity. You can make a knot at the beginning, make a knot at the end. You can pull up. You can pull up automatically. And actually, let's see, if I pull up auto, it'll highlight both buttons. And then I could choose to trace the bounds or trace the area. So those are what the buttons do in Pro Stitcher Quilt over here. Let me deselect a lot. And I'm going to go back to my main screen and say hi to you again so I can see you. So, hi. Let's see. Somehow you were on the wrong page under Handy Quilter. Sorry about that. We're here. I'm glad you're here with us. But putting the handout back up, we've gone through Pro Stitcher and we've gone through the buttons on Pro Stitcher Quilt. Hold on. There's one more thing I didn't cover in Pro Stitcher Quilt. So let me share screen again. It's why I double check everything. It's for me more than it's for you. So I'm back in Pro Stitcher. Now, I have decided that I'm going to make an ending knot here and I'm going to pull up automatically. Everything's ready. I'm going to go hit run. Actually, I have to baseline, which is over here on the sidebar. It looks like a square of fabric with a pin in it. It's called baseline. So I hit baseline and now I'm ready to hit run. The last thing that happens is verify the settings. So my stitching is stitching as normal. My tie off at the start is off. My tie off at the end is on. My count, and we'll talk about that later, is 5. The distance is 1/110th, 100/1000th of an inch. I have a micro knot. My pull up is on. Pull up auto is on. My speed percent is 100. I have a 12 stitches per inch. My auto jump is at 6 inches. My pause delay is at 2 seconds, and cut thread is off because I don't have it. So you can verify your settings and then you can hit proceed, but it gives you a chance to make sure that everything is there. Now, if I turn off stitch, I'm going to hit run. It's going to say air stitch. No knot. So you see more of it is red than green here. I'll turn the stitch back on. So I can choose. So it's going to give me a chance to double check everything I did to see that if that's what I wanted to do. Let's see, Ellen, you will use the bounds and area to stitch in the ditch of block, multi-purpose. I've marked my area and can stitch and ditch in one step. Yes, I do that with an area, but not with bounds. So I do stitch area. I will stitch my area if I need to stitch in the ditch or outline a design or outline a crop, things like that. But I've never used it for bounds. But if you have a reason, you're welcome to. It's all there. There are a lot of things in Pro Stitcher I don't do. I do the basic level things. I do place a block, place an edge to edge, that sort of thing. There are other teachers you've seen on here. Patty Sliney's been on here, and other teachers that do amazing, fancy things. I'm not a fancy user of a Pro Stitcher. I'm a get it done Pro Stitcher person. So great point. Thank you for sharing that, Ellen. I like whenever the hive mind, Star Trek reference. I like when the hive mind joins in because we're all smarter together. Thank you. Erin, my tackling stitches are not quite so small as yours. Do you think 0.001 is better? I don't think there's a better or worse. And mine, I'm not sure why it's that. I'm not sure if it's a factory setting because this is in my simulation and it gets changed all the time as I'm teaching. So if you're not works, then it works. I wouldn't worry about it. I'm a big believer, and if it's not broken, don't fix it. I am, however, married to an engineer who has an opposite opinion on things. If it's not broken, let's see how I can make it break or do things better. I love my engineer, but he has a different opinion. I'm just a simple person. So if yours is 0.025, enjoy that. And it works. If you're happy, do it. Okay, let me go back to the handout here. So we've done the Pro Stitcher quilts. We did stitch, cut thread, start, end, pull up auto, trace bounds, trace area, and verify. So that's under Pro Stitcher and quilt. Erin, you used to be an engineer? No, you didn't. You are an engineer. At least in my husband's case, he's an engineer, but that's by birth, only confirmed by training. And one of my grandsons is an engineer. He's 11, but I've known it since he was about 2. It's just you think different, and I appreciate it. My engineer, my husband, and my engineer husband is my favorite person on the planet, so I'm a big fan. This isn't me ripping on engineers. It's just a little different. And I appreciate the gifts he brings. So let's go over. We did the Pro Stitcher. We did the Pro Stitcher quilt. Now we're going to go into a settings and defaults. Let me move over here. Share screen, window, Pro Stitcher. Okay, I'm back in Pro Stitcher. So I said we're going to go to settings. So we can follow my cursor. I'm going up to the top right to this disc, this settings wheel. And I think that's the same on Apple as well as, if I always look at what type of phone do you have. I have this settings wheel on my Apple phone. I have this settings wheel on my PC. So whether you're Apple or PC, you know what a settings wheel looks like. This is the settings wheel right here. And if you ever forget what it is, hit the blue question mark, which is your help button. And then it's not letting me press that. Never mind. So anyway, that's my settings wheel. Yeah, I was hoping it would define settings, but it doesn't. So that's my settings wheel. When I turn the settings on, the first button I see in the ribbon that deals with the settings is auto jump, the stitch settings. Now, auto jump is how far my thread will carry between designs while stitching. So let me go here. You're not seeing what I'm doing because I have another screen coming up. Okay. Actually, I didn't like that. Let's do something different. I'm going to clear the area. I'm going to go to repeat. And then I'm going to put a big old gap in here. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, let me make that fit. So I have 3 blocks that are 5.26 inches apart. So whenever I hit baseline and quilt, it will move into position. It will make the knots if I choose, or however I have that set up. It'll stitch this entire block. And then I know, let's see, let me move that closer. It doesn't have to be that far apart. So the distance that it's measuring is the distance between this start point and this start point here. So whenever I go into settings, there's something called auto jump, and it's 6 inches right now. So whenever it finishes stitching, it's going to stitch this first feathered wreath, and then it's going to make a knot, whatever, and it's going to move over to the second block. And if this distance is less than 6 inches, it's just going to start stitching and make the second block and make the knot, and then move over less than 6 inches and make the third block and the knot. If, however, it is further than 6 inches away, it's going to stitch the first block and pause. It's going to wait for me to come cut my thread, and then it's going to give me a resume message. So let's actually make that happen. Let's go over to Pro Stitcher, run. Actually, let me turn a knot on. Put my ending knot on. There we go. Proceed. So it's going to move into place. It's going to stitch the first. Let's see if I can make that look bigger. There's my pause, delay, resume. We'll talk about that in a bit. So it is going through, and as it's stitching, it's turning it yellow on my screen to show what I've already done. Should have picked a smaller, a less involved design, sorry. Over the years, the feather block has just been my default because it's pretty. Gives us time to talk. So it's stitching out, stitching out, stitching out. Erin, you can't seem to spell this morning. It's a typing issue. I don't think it's a spelling issue. My hand, my typing degrades. My hands move faster than my brain, and my brain doesn't move as very fast anyway. So it's always fun trying to catch up. So I'm stitching, stitching, stitching. And what do you do when your machine is stitching and you don't have to babysit it? Some people are binding their quilts. Some people are stitching the next quilt. Some people are doing paperwork. If you're running this as a business, I tend to just stand there and watch it stitch anyway. I'm like, oh, look, it'll save me time. And it doesn't. I just stand there and watch it. Just like I do my Roomba, my automatic floor vacuum. Like, oh, look how much time it's going to save me. It didn't save me any time because I sit there and watch it. Okay, so it stitched there. It made the knot. And now, long jump, pause. So what it's saying is my jump is longer than that 6 inches that I had it set. So I need to trim my thread and press resume to continue. And then it'll move over and stitch the next one. That's what the jump button does. So I'm just going to cancel this all out. I'm going to go back into, settings. So we're in auto jump, and you can set, if you want this set at a smaller number, a larger number. I set mine at 0. because I want to cut the thread 100% of the time. Now, if I was working on an embroidery machine, which kind of scares me, but if I'm doing lettering on an embroidery machine, I don't want to have to sit there and manually cut between each letter if I'm doing some lettering on an embroidery machine, but I'm happy to come in and cut the thread myself. So I want to handle all the knots. I don't want it dragging thread. That's a personal preference. I have decaf ginger peach iced tea in my cup, which is a personal choice. What you set your auto jump at is a personal choice. It's just a preference. I prefer to do all of my, I don't like doing jumps on the machine at all. And that's just because I'm a control freak. It has nothing to do with what the computer can do. I mean, what the machine can do. So that's auto jump. So that was settings, auto jumps. Let me stop sharing. Come back and see you. You love that block? Someday you'll use it. Yeah, someday it's the right quilt. Like I could use it in the center block of this quilt here, but this quilt is my husband's quilt. It's Star Wars. And I probably wouldn't put I didn't put a feathered block here. I put like gears in there because this is all the robots and from Star Wars. So it wasn't quite the right block for it, but it's the one I like to demonstrate with. So let's go back to the handout. So we did the auto jump settings. Did you have any questions about auto jump? Did that kind of make sense how that works? And then the next button, so that was settings default. The next box here is settings and auto jump, and that's different. Love the quilt in Star Wars too. Thank you. This quilt is called Freeze Frame. It's one of my cutie patterns that I design. It's made with 16 fat eighths. All of my patterns are. But anyway, that one just happened to be washed and got hung before it got put back on the sofa. So that's my couch. That's a couch. I may or may not have a Star Wars living room. I totally have a Star Wars living room. But the quilt needed to be washed. So it ended up behind me on the wall for this video. So then first button is settings, defaults, auto jump. And now it's settings, auto jump. Kind of redundant, but let me show you what the difference is here because it's not as redundant as you think. I'm going to go back into share screen, window, Pro Stitcher, share. Okay. So I'm back in my Pro Stitcher and I am at my settings and down here. Oh, so that was auto jumps. I did the boxes backwards. So that was actually box 4 I did. Let's go back to box 3, which is defaults. So in defaults, you have your auto jump. You don't have to change it each time. I can just say, I never want an auto jump ever, ever, ever. I can set it as 0 forever and always. So now when I go into auto jump, it's going to say 0. And when I load another design, it's going to say 0. And when I load another design, it's going to say 0. I can change it for that quilt in the auto jump button here, but factory default on this is 6 inches. So I try to keep it that way just for teaching, even though my personal machine is 0. So I can go into defaults, set mine at 0 100% of the time. So every time auto jump comes up, it's always going to say 0 and I never have to worry about it. Sorry, I got that backwards. I hope I didn't confuse you. So you can set how it is in the auto jump box, and that's for this quilt. In the default, that's for all quilts. That's what it's always going to be unless you change it. So the third box is settings default. The fourth box is settings auto jump. So it's one is always and one is just for this quilt. So let's move over to the next one, settings to stitches per inch. Turn that off. Okay. Got it? Thank you. I know that y'all are smart enough to get it, except I explained it wrong. So I wanted to make sure that I re-navigated through that because sometimes my brain doesn't work as fast as I want it to. Okay, let's go back to, no, This is me working, trying to get the screen to change. Share screen, back to Pro Stitcher, and then let me get in the Pro Stitcher. Okay, so we are at settings, and then the next button is going to be stitches per inch. So you can set the default on your stitches per inch. You know what it's going to be when it runs. When I hit verify, it told me I was stitching at 12 stitches per inch because that was the number in the box. But if I'm using a shiny metallic thread, and metallic thread is shinier when you use a bigger stitch because of the surface area. So if I want to use a bigger stitch, I can change that here in my settings before I start my quilt. If I want to use a smaller stitch because I'm doing some micro quilting, you know, if I have a quilt that's at 8 stitches per inch and it's doing little teeny pebbles, they're going to look like stop signs because they're going to look like octagons because it's only going to have 8 stitches going around. I might want 16 stitches to make it look rounder. So I can change my stitches per inch under my stitches per inch button here. I can also change what my basting is. And it's at a 1/4 inch. Let's see, is it going to let me change it? 1/4 inch basting is what makes me happy, but that's where you go in and play with that. Press the base button to quickly access basting stitch mode. Begin basting the quilt. Let's see. Press the plus and minus button to decrease to quickly access basting stitch mode. Begin basting. When I forget things, I use the blue question mark. Press the plus and minus button. Okay, let's turn this off. Let's go here. Anyway, I keep mine at a 1/4 inch, but that's my basting. So if I want to baste, and that's where I would find it. If you have Pro Stitcher Lite, I just set my stitches per inch at 4 when I want to baste. This in Pro Stitcher, it doesn't let you go to 4 because that would go into a basting stitch, but on Pro Stitcher Lite, you could do that. Okay, I see some comments popping up. Is this nasty button available in Pro Stitcher Lite 2? Not sure what the nasty button is. The baste is not in Pro Stitcher Lite. Stitches per inch is in Pro Stitcher Lite. If you're saying baste, it is not. The baste is not in Pro Stitcher Lite. You would just set that at 4 stitches to the inch. I am fluent in autocorrect because I type so poorly with fat fingers. You found me. I was lost. I'm sorry. So here I am on Pro Stitcher YouTube channel. So this will be saved on YouTube. You can go back and watch it from the beginning. If you're watching on Facebook, Facebook only holds videos for 30 days. So go watch it in the future on YouTube because Facebook deletes videos after 30 days. So this will be able to be watched from the beginning if you're joining late. So I'm glad you found me, Eileen. So let's see. Let me go back to Pro Stitcher. I'm going to do the handout. Okay. So we did the Pro Stitcher quilt, settings default, settings auto jump, settings stitches per inch. Baste is not available in Pro Stitcher Lite. Set it at 4 stitches to the inch, 5 stitches per inch, whatever looks good to you here. Next, we're going to go into settings and tie-offs. So let me go back into Pro Stitcher. And let me get into my Pro Stitcher. Okay, I'm looking for my right button. Okay, so tie-offs is next. So here I am, I'm in settings, which is this settings gear that we're all used to. And then in the ribbon, I'm going to go over to tie-offs. And this gets interesting because this is all in Pro Stitcher Premium, and I'll tell you how it's different in Pro Stitcher Lite. So the first is your tie-off number. And so the tie-off number is 5 tie-offs. And so if I am in, it'll just do 5 tie-offs. But if I'm in a tack stitch, which we'll talk about in a minute, that's not just 5 stitches. It's kind of stitch, back, stitch, stitch, back, stitch, stitch, back, stitch. So 5 is kind of a lot. So it's telling me I can change the number of tie-offs. It's telling me I can change the distance. So this is at 1/1000th of an inch. I think someone said theirs was at 25, 2.5 hundredths of an inch, 2.5 hundredths of an inch. Sorry, my decimals get a little dicey. So you can change how big your stitches are, what the distance is. You can change, am I making a knot at the start and at the end? And then you can also turn those off and on in the in your settings, whenever you're ready to stitch under quilt. And then over here we have tack versus micro. Tack is only available in Pro Stitcher Premium, and that's the one where it goes stitch, 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 stitch. That's a tack stitch. It's back and forth. Micro stitch is small stitches in a straight line. So if someone had asked about the stitch distance, if I'm doing the micro stitch, I would tend to want those to be smaller than the tack stitch, because this tack stitch is going back and forth. It can be a little larger, but the micro stitch, I want that to be small so it's practically on top of each other. But those are your options. If you have Pro Stitcher Lite, you only have the micro option. You do not have the tack option. But this is where you're going to deal with those settings, tie-offs. Let me stop sharing because I'm seeing some smart comments coming in. With my current quilt project, when I press the base button, my Avante screen says 4 stitches per inch. When I press the minus button, it changes to a 1/2 inch. Should I check my default setting to make sure it's set at a 1/2 inch? No, that's how you change it. In the machine, when you press the base button, our basting, when you press plus and minus on basting, it goes 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 2 inch, 4 inch, I believe are the options. So that's right. That's absolutely fine. When I press the minus button on the Avante screen, it changes to be 1/2. Should I check my default setting to make sure it's set at a 1/2? Whatever it says on the screen, whenever you press run, or whenever you press run, it's going to give you that verify setting. It'll tell you what you're stitching at, so you can confirm it there. I love that we can watch as many times as we want. I need to do that. Me too. My husband always laughs because I do technical video editing for people and social media editing, and he laughs at me because computers are hard for me. He's watched me scream and cry in frustration and as I'm trying to learn this. But I just go back to Google. I go back to wherever my source is, whatever it is I'm watching, and I'll have to go back to it a lot until it's finally in my brain. And some things that I don't do very often are never finally in my brain. I always have to go back and watch them. So there's nothing wrong with us. There's only so many things that are in here. Like I can tell you my first boyfriend's phone number from 1985. I cannot tell you my husband's cell phone number because I don't know it. And he's not upset that I remember my boyfriend's phone number because it happens to be the same guy. But he won't answer that other number. It's in another city and all of those things. So it doesn't all have to get in. Go back and watch the video whenever you need to. And if you need to every time, that's fine too. That's what it's there for. Let's see, Sushma. How does this setting work if I have stitch? So how this setting work if I have to stitch the center of each block for a 12 block quilt? I'm not sure what your question is. I'm sorry. But I will answer if you type again. You're the perfect teacher for new learners. Sometimes accomplished skilled teachers are so familiar they forget the beginner experience. I'm a beginner perpetually. And I love working with beginners because I remember that. And no one looks at me and goes, oh my word, she's so scary. I'm not, because you'll see me press the wrong buttons and I'll forget to share screen at some point and you'll have to yell at me. So to do it again. So don't, I'm happy to do this. Please don't think I'm talking down to you. This is just as high as it goes in my brain. So, if this is real natural to you, I might not be the teacher for you, but if you're a beginner, I can get you through this. So we're in the right place today if we have beginners that learn at my speed, because this is my speed. So hopefully that answered the tie-offs. Same here, like twins. Yeah, not much more is getting in here. So that was the tie-offs. Let me go back to the handout. So we got through pro stitcher, quilt, defaults, auto jump, stitches per inch, and tie-offs. And again, the tack is not available if you're in Pro Stitcher Lite. You're only going to have a line of stitches that are very close together. The tack stitches is back and forth. It's just kind of over on top of each other. The micro stitches are a line of small stitches next to each other. Let me turn this off and talk to you for a sec. If you don't have a tack stitch and you want to make a tack stitch, you can make knots yourself without using the ones on the Pro Stitcher. Like I use the up and down button and just move the machine a hair to get it back and forth, like I do whenever I'm stitching on my own, when I'm stitching free motion. So, if you really want a tack stitch and you're in Pro Stitcher Lite, manually make a tack stitch. It's fine. You can do that. You're with me? Yeah. There are times when I forget things and my husband's like, how do you keep a job? I'm like, oh, they all understand. And then I need a, and the whole class goes pen because I forgot the name of the word. So yeah, we're all in this together. It's a group project. Okay, we have four settings left. We're doing great here. Okay, so Sushma's question. If I have to do this feather block for each block of my quilt, the setting will be the same, or I have to reset for every block? Nope, the setting will be the same. And then if you want to confirm, if you're doing the jumps, it'll be the same. And it'll be the same. You can confirm that when you verify your settings as well, whenever you press run, and it'll verify the settings, but it should stay the same. I don't think you'll have to reset it each time. Thank you for clarifying the question. My brain didn't, it's my brain. Okay, so back here, pull up. We're going to talk about the pull up. Let's go back to share screen, Pro Stitcher. Sorry, this is me just talking through what buttons I have to push each time. Oh, I'm back in Pro Stitcher. Okay, so I'm over to pull up. Now, pull up is going to say, yes, my pull up is on. Yes, I can pull up automatically. You can still turn that off whenever you're getting ready to stitch, but that's what the pull up is. Does the pull up work? Does the pull up automatic work? And we've covered what those are. So I'm going to move right into pause delay. Now, this setting, this next button here, it looks like a stopwatch here with a pause button in it, pause delay. This is not available in Pro Stitcher Lite. So don't look for it because it's not going to be there. So pause delay. Let me pull up a different design. So file, excuse me. Close selected. You're not going to see the screen that I'm going to here because it's a different screen. I'm just looking for a certain block. That'll do. Okay, now I'm back and we're seeing each other. Let me go to Pro Stitcher. Nope. Modify, swap. Okay, so the design I chose, it starts in the middle. So I'm going to start stitching in the middle, and it's going to go around and around and around. And what pause delay does is I'm going to have these two tails in the front, and I'm going to stitch over them every time that I stitch another row around. What pause delay does is it will stitch just a little bit and pause, let me come in, cut my threads, and then resume. So actually, let me go to Pro Stitcher and run. I have pause delay on. So yeah, pause delay is on. So it's going to go stitch. It's making my knot. That's my auto pull up. So you saw it move to the side. So I'm going to hit resume. It's going to go back. It's going to make the knot. And now it's going to stitch. It's coming. It's just a different speed. There we go. So I'm on my pause delay. Let me close that so we can see what happened. So it's stitched over. It's waiting for me to now come in and cut this thread right here so that every time I stitch around the spiral, I'm not going to stitch over my tails. And then once I've cut it, I can hit resume. And it'll continue stitching. Let me pause. Let me cancel and come back to pause delay. So I'm going to go back to the screen for a second and see if any questions came up. So that's what pause delay does. If I'm working from the center, working my way out, I feel like I'm doing scissor chicken. Can I get the scissors in fast enough while the machine is stitching? Wait, nope, because I don't want to stitch over the scissors. So what pause delay does is it stops you from playing scissor chicken. And if you don't have pause delay and you don't want to play scissor chicken, hit the pause button on the machine, cut your thread, and then hit resume. This will just pause automatically. So Kim, you enjoy my weekly chats. I learned so much from you. I'm so glad. I'm happy to be here. This is my last in this series. I teach home machine quilting on Handy Quilter stitch machines. I teach free motion quilting on long arms, and I teach Pro Stitcher. But my personal work, my personal Facebook lives are mostly home machine quilting and free motion quilting, stencil quilting, things like that. This is just my focused Pro Stitcher that I'm teaching for Handy Quilter and for Pro Stitcher. Thanks for explaining pause delay. I never really understood the function. Happy to help. That's why I picked it that way. I'll go in and, Lori, inches, I'll go in and explain that because I haven't explained the settings of it. I just explained why we might want it. And Janine, can I go in and swap the start to avoid the overstitching? Yes, on this design, but not on all designs. Okay, let's go back to Pro Stitcher. I just wanted to show you why you might want it. Share screen, window, Pro Stitcher, share. Yes, I do talk to myself when I'm alone, just like this, every time I press buttons as I'm trying to remember the order. So let me come up with a different design. Close selected. Oh, so the question was, can I change the start and end point? I can go into Pro Stitcher. No. I can go into modify. I can hit my swap the start and end. So it'll start out here and end in the middle. Yes, that works. And before anyone asks, I'm going to confirm if that's swap start and end is available in Pro Stitcher Lite. I do both, but I like having, I want to be sure I give you the right answer. So under modify. Yes, that is available in Pro Stitcher Lite. Okay, so let me pull up a different design because it worked in the spiral, but it wouldn't work in all designs. Let me clear all. I'm going to pull up a new design. You're not going to see what I'm doing because it's a different screen. It's not going to be on your screen. And now we're back. Okay, so here it's not a spiral. And I can swap my start and end points, but they're in the same place. So when this goes to stitch, let's go make it stitch. Pro Stitcher quilt, run, proceed. So pull up, press resume to continue. It's making my knot. You can see there's this little pink box going down there telling me that it's making my knot. And knots take a little time, and my East Coast caffeinated personality isn't always very patient. Okay, so there's my pause delay. So it's stitched over here, and let me cut my thread because it's going to come back here, and then it's going to come out here, and it's going to come out here and come out here. So it's going from the middle, out, back to 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 the middle. So on this design, swapping the start and end point wouldn't work, but on some it would. So great call. Let me just cancel this out. Okay. So pause delay. There are options within pause delay now. I can turn pause delay on. I can turn it off. And here's where I would turn it off. I'm not going to do a pause delay on an edge-to-edge design because it's going to start on the left side of the quilt. It's going to run to the right side of the quilt, and I don't want it to stop because I just want to get it done because the baby shower is on Sunday, and I've got quilts to finish. So I would turn it off. But if I can turn it on, I can choose to have it stop how many seconds of stitching or how many inches of stitching. So I can say seconds. I want it to stop after 5 seconds of stitching. You know, I can just change that. I can say I want it to stop at 2 inches of stitching, 3 inches of stitching, whatever. So you can choose what you like. Mine has been set at 2 seconds for years, and that's just what I do. So hopefully that made sense. But that's what the pause delay does. On and off. I turn it off for edge to edge. I turn it on if the block needs it. And then I keep mine at 2 seconds, but you can play around with what you like, seconds or inches. And again, let's go to stitch this again. For those who have Pro Stitcher Lite, let's go back into Pro Stitcher Quilt Run. Let's see, pause delay is on. Let me cancel that. Go back into settings. Let's turn pause delay off. Pro Stitcher Run. Pause delay is off. It's red. So I'm going to hit proceed. It's going to start stitching. Knots, knots, knots. Pull up. Now it's making the knots. And now it's going to start stitching in a second. Okay, so it's stitching. And what I would just do is hit the pause button. So I hit the pause button manually over here with my finger, come in, cut the thread, and then hit resume. If I don't have that auto pause delay. Hopefully that makes sense for you. So let's cancel this out. So that was the settings on the pause delay, not available in Pro Stitcher Lite. The next one is really quick because it's cut thread. I can turn it on. I can turn it off. This is a sample program I'm using on my computer. Unless I have an infinity, it doesn't work. So it's not an option. You don't have to worry about it. The very last thing, we're doing great on time because we're ending right when I wanted to. So the last place to look for stitch settings is to go in settings. I'm going to go over to advanced and in general. One I'm going to have here is a thread break sensor. So I can turn my thread break sensor on or off. If you're in Pro Stitcher Lite, you don't have that option, but you can turn your thread break sensor on or off. And then the other one is verify before quilting. As I hit quilting, remember that screen that pops up, and I have to say, yep, I like all my settings, and hit go again. I can turn that off. If I'm really comfortable and I know what I'm doing, I've been quilting a long time, it's just an extra button push, and I really wish I could get it to go away. You're going to go into settings, advanced, general, and you can turn off your verify. Here's how you turn it off and turn it on. As impatient as I am, I keep mine on because I don't trust myself. So let me stop sharing here, go back to see you, and show the handout. Okay, so we talked about in Pro Stitcher, the half stitch, full stitch, and based. Based being not available in Pro Stitcher Lite. Then I went over to the Pro Stitcher tab, hit the quilt button, and I can stitch. Cut thread is not available unless you have an infinity. I can make a knot at the start, the end, a pull up auto, trace bounds, not available in Pro Stitcher Lite, trace area, and I can verify. Because once I hit run, it will give me that verification screen. I can then go into that settings wheel and hit the defaults, and it's going to give me what is the default for my auto jump. Then I can go back into settings, and in the ribbon it says auto jump, and then I can set it just for this quilt. The next button is settings, then it'll be stitches per inch. I can set how many stitches per inch, or I can set the based. Based is not available in Pro Stitcher Lite. You would just have to keep that, manually set that at 4, 5, 6 stitches to the inch. I can then go settings and tie-offs. I have a tie-off number, and then I have the distance, like how big are they? How many stitches and how big are they? So I can tie off at the beginning, tie off at the end. I can hit tack, which is a back and forth, only available in Pro Stitcher Premium. And then I have micro, which is a series of small stitches. I could also go into settings and do the pull up, and that's just going to tell me I have my pull up on and pull up automatic. I can go into settings and pause delay. Not available in Pro Stitcher Lite. You'd have to hit the pause button, but I can choose to turn on the pause delay based on how many seconds or how many inches of stitching. I can go into settings and cut thread. Again, that's only for the infinity. And then the last one is going to settings, advanced, and then general. I can turn this thread break sensor on and off in Pro Stitcher Premium. And I can verify before quilting, and that's that screen. That I can turn that screen on or that screen off. It's up to you. So those are the stitch settings of what I do and the decisions I make for how I'm going to quilt my quilt. Hopefully this clarified some of these for you. It helped you find where some of these settings might be that you were looking for. It gave you options you didn't know you had, or it explained why you couldn't find it if you have Pro Stitcher Premium. So this handout is available at my website. Let me get that. I'm going to give you a link for all of the handouts. It's going to be the very last thing in the chat here. Then I'm going to put in. There we go. Is that going to work? So this is where all of the handouts for all 4 classes are. You can go back and watch the classes at Pro Stitcher YouTube channel. The handouts are a free download. It's automatic. I'm not involved in the least. You'll just get an automatic email telling you to go download it. You have to pay for it, but it's free. You don't need a credit card or anything. But save these videos. Be sure to check back at the Pro Stitcher YouTube channel and watch again and again. If you'd like to follow me personally, my name is Debbie Brown Quilts, and that is my website here. DebbieBrownQuilts.com is at the bottom of your handout, and that is my name on all social media, Debbie Brown Quilts, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all the things. So most of what I teach online is free motion and a lot of home machine quilting, just because I teach all the quiltings, but my Pro Stitcher videos are on the Pro Stitcher YouTube channel. Let's see. Erin, thank you for the videos. I've been quilting a little while, but it's good to review things because I learned something new. Yes, there are times that I'm like, oh, I knew that, but I forgot that I knew that, but now I know that again. Or sometimes I taught myself and I missed that one thing. So I'm happy to help with that. Let's see. Will I do more videos? I do Facebook Lives every week. I do YouTube videos every month for myself on my own channels. As far as for Pro Stitcher or for Handy Quilter, it could happen. So you can get in touch with me easily. Again, Debbie Brown Quilts on all social media or through my website, and let me know something you're interested in, and I'd be happy to pitch it to Pro Stitcher or Handy Quilter. But I'm easy to find. So and being easy to find, I'd love to see what you're stitching. So you can tag me on Facebook. I mostly live on Facebook and Instagram, but so I'm easy to get in touch with there through my website. And there's also a blog on my website to show you what all my latest projects are. So thank you for tuning into these 4 weeks. It's been so much fun. I do feel bad that I happen to have had the virus that shall not be named in the middle. So I wasn't really smart for one of the weeks and my voice hasn't been awesome, but I'm super happy that we have computers and the ability for me to teach you when I can't be traveling and teaching in person. But if you sign up for my newsletter, again, at debbybrownquilts.com, you'll see where I'm teaching in person, mostly in the Northeast United States. So thanks for being along for this 4-week journey. Refer back to the videos on the Pro Stitcher YouTube channel anytime you need them, and keep in touch with me. So until I see you again in a live class, in a YouTube video, in a blog post somewhere, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and happy quilting. Bye.